Have you ever seen a man insult his own wife in front of everyone and smile like he did nothing wrong? Imagine this: a big school event. Parents sitting, teachers watching, cameras on, and suddenly a husband stands up and points at his own wife and says, "She is not my wife, she is just the nanny." The whole hall goes silent. The woman freezes. Her own child is watching. Her eyes slowly fill with tears. But then, something unexpected happens. The principal walks to the stage, takes the mic, and says something that no one was ready to hear. And in that one moment, everything changes. The man who was laughing stops smiling. The people who were quiet start whispering. And the truth, the hidden truth, comes out in front of everyone. This is not just a story of insult. This is a story of truth, pain, and a moment that destroyed one man's pride forever. So stay with me till the end, because what you are about to hear will shock you. And before we move forward, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us which country you are watching from. We always love to see how far our stories are reaching. Have you ever seen someone get insulted in front of everyone and still stay calm? At a school event, a man laughed and said, "She's just the nanny." People smiled. Some looked away. No one spoke. But what they didn't know was the woman he called just a nanny was about to change his life forever. Because a few minutes later, the principal stood up and said something that made the whole room go silent. And that man wished he had never opened his mouth. Stay with me, because this story is not what you think. And before we continue, make sure you are already subscribed to the channel. And tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I really love to see how far these stories reach. The school hall was full that evening. Bright lights, colorful decorations, children running everywhere, and parents sitting proudly, waiting for the program to begin. It was the annual school event at Westbrook Elementary. A big day, a special day, the kind of day where every parent wants to be seen. Every parent wants to look perfect, and every child wants to make their parents proud. At the front row, sitting with confidence, was Daniel Carter. Expensive suit, perfect watch, calm smile. He looked like a man who had everything under control. Next to him sat a woman in a simple dress. Her name was Emma Carter. No jewelry, no makeup, just quiet eyes and a soft smile. She held a small lunchbox in her hands. Inside it, homemade snacks for her son. Daniel didn't look at her, not once. He was busy shaking hands with other parents, talking loudly, laughing, showing his success. "Big deal coming this month," he told another father. "Things are going great." The other man nodded, impressed. Emma stayed quiet. She looked at the stage. Her eyes were searching for one person only, their son, Noah Carter, 8 years old, standing backstage, nervous, holding a script. This was his first time speaking on stage. And Emma knew he was scared. She could feel it. A mother always knows. Emma leaned a little closer to Daniel. "Daniel, Noah looked nervous earlier. Maybe you should." Daniel didn't let her finish. He raised his hand slightly. Not angry, but cold. "Emma, please. Not now." His eyes didn't move from the people in front of him. Emma stopped. She slowly leaned back in her seat. She didn't argue. She didn't complain. She just went quiet again. A few seats behind them, 2 mothers were watching. "Is that his wife?" one whispered. The other shrugged. "I don't think so. I heard his wife is very elegant, very social." They looked at Emma again. Simple dress, quiet, invisible. "Maybe she's the nanny," one of them said softly. Emma heard it, every word, but her face didn't change, not even a little. On the stage, the program started. Music, clapping, children performing, parents smiling, phones recording every moment. Daniel was enjoying it, laughing, clapping loudly, looking around to see who was watching him. Emma only looked at the stage, waiting. Finally, Noah's name was called. He walked onto the stage slowly, small steps, shaking hands, holding his paper tightly. The spotlight fell on his face, and suddenly everything became silent. Noah looked into the crowd. So many faces, so many eyes. He froze. He couldn't speak. His lips moved, but no words came out. A soft whisper spread in the hall. Oh no, he forgot his lines. Daniel's smile disappeared. He leaned forward slightly, clearly annoyed. Come on, he muttered under his breath. Emma's heart started beating faster. She stood up a little, just enough so Noah could see her. She didn't wave. She didn't shout. She just placed her hand on her chest and smiled. That same warm smile she always gave him at home. Noah saw her, and in that moment, something changed. His shoulders relaxed. His hands stopped shaking. He took a deep breath. And then he started speaking, slowly at first, then stronger, then with confidence. The audience began to clap softly, encouraging him. Daniel leaned back in his chair again, relieved. But instead of pride, there was irritation on his face. When Noah finished, the whole hall clapped loudly. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Not sadness. Pride. Pure pride. As Noah came down from the stage, he ran straight toward Emma. Mama, did you see me? Emma knelt down and hugged him tightly. I saw everything. You were amazing. Her voice was soft, but full of love. Daniel looked at them. Then, he quickly stood up. He adjusted his suit and turned toward a group of parents standing nearby. He didn't go to Noah. He didn't say anything. One of the fathers smiled at Daniel. Your son did great. He must get that confidence from you. Daniel laughed lightly. Yeah, maybe. Then his eyes moved toward Emma and Noah. And for a second, something in his expression changed. But it didn't stay. It disappeared quickly. The event moved forward. Parents started walking around, talking, meeting teachers, taking pictures. Emma held Noah's hand and walked slowly toward the refreshment table. She opened the lunchbox. Your favorite cookies, she said. Noah smiled big. Daniel walked behind them, looking at his phone, typing, busy. A woman in a stylish dress approached Daniel. Hi, Daniel. I didn't know you were coming today. Her name was Sophia Blake. Confident, charming, and clearly very comfortable around him. Daniel smiled in a different way now. Of course. I never miss important events. Sophia looked at Emma, then back at Daniel. Oh, is she the nanny? There was a small pause. A very small moment, where Daniel could have corrected her, where he could have said, no, she's my wife. But he didn't. He gave a short laugh. Yeah, something like that. Emma heard it. Noah heard it too. The air changed. It became heavy, uncomfortable. But Daniel didn't notice. Or maybe he chose not to. Emma slowly closed the lunchbox. She stood up, her face calm, too calm. And in that calm, there was something new, something quiet, but powerful. She looked at Daniel, just for a second. And then she looked away, like he didn't matter anymore. And that was the moment everything started to change. Because, in a few minutes, someone very important was going to speak. And when that person spoke, the truth would come out. And nothing would ever be the same again. The noise in the hall came back slowly. Parents were talking again. Children were laughing. Plates were clinking. But for Emma, everything felt quiet. Too quiet. Like she was standing alone in a room full of people. Noah held her hand tightly. Mama, why did he say that? He asked in a soft voice. Emma looked down at him. Her heart hurt, but her face stayed calm. He didn't mean it like that, she said gently. Noah didn't look convinced. He looked back at Daniel, who was still talking to Sophia, laughing, smiling, acting like nothing had happened. Emma slowly took a deep breath. She knelt down again. She fixed Noah's shirt collar. You did amazing today, she said. That is what matters. Noah nodded slowly, but something had changed in his eyes. A small crack, a small question, and Emma saw it. She stood up again and looked around. People were watching her now, not openly, but quietly, some with sympathy, some with curiosity, some with judgment, and some with guilt, because they had heard what Daniel said, and they had said nothing. Sophia leaned closer to Daniel. She seems very quiet, she said. Daniel shrugged. She's always like that. Sophia smiled slightly. I like confident women. Daniel smirked. Yeah, me too. Emma heard that. Every word. But again, she said nothing. Instead, she picked up Noah's hand. Come, she said softly. Let's get some juice. They walked away from the crowd, toward a smaller table near the side of the hall, a place where it was a little quieter, a place where she could breathe. As they reached the table, Noah looked up at her again. "Mom, are you really my nanny?" Emma froze for a second. That question, it hit deeper than anything Daniel had said. She slowly turned to Noah. She bent down so her eyes were at his level. "No," she said softly. "I am your mother." Noah looked relieved, but also confused. "Then why did Papa say that?" Emma didn't answer immediately. She didn't want to lie, but she also didn't want to break his heart. Before she could speak, a voice came from behind them. Because some people forget what truly matters. Emma turned around. It was Mrs. Henderson, the school principal, a woman in her late 50s. Calm, respectful, and known for seeing everything, even when she said nothing. She walked closer. Her eyes moved from Emma to Noah, and then toward Daniel, who was still laughing with Sophia. Mrs. Henderson's face became serious. "Emma," she said gently, "can I speak with you for a moment?" Emma nodded. "Of course." Noah held Emma's hand tighter. "It's okay," Emma whispered. "I'll be right here." Mrs. Henderson smiled softly at Noah. "You were very brave on stage," she said. Noah smiled shyly. "Thank you." Emma followed Mrs. Henderson a few steps away. Not too far. Just enough for a private conversation. "I heard what happened," Mrs. Henderson said quietly. Emma didn't react. She just nodded once. "I'm sorry," the principal added. Emma gave a small smile. "It's okay." But it was not okay, and Mrs. Henderson knew it. "I have been watching you for years," she continued. Emma looked slightly surprised. "Me?" "Yes," Mrs. Henderson said. "Every school meeting, every parent event, every time Noah needed support, you were there." Emma didn't know what to say. She had never thought anyone noticed. "I also know," Mrs. Henderson said slowly, "who really helped Noah become the student he is today." Emma's eyes softened. She looked down for a moment. "I just do what a mother should do." Mrs. Henderson shook her head gently. "No, you do much more than that." At the same time, on the other side of the hall, Sophia crossed her arms. "So, she really is just the nanny?" she asked again. Daniel nodded, casually. "Yeah, she takes care of the house, the kid, all that." Sophia raised an eyebrow, but she seems very close to him. Daniel shrugged again. "Kids get attached." He said it so easily, so coldly, like Noah was not his son, like Emma was not his wife, like none of it mattered. A man standing nearby heard the conversation. He frowned, but said nothing. Again silence. Back near the side table, Mrs. Henderson looked at Emma carefully. "Today we are giving a special recognition," she said. Emma looked confused. "Recognition?" "Yes," the principal said, "for a parent who has made an extraordinary effort in supporting their child's growth." Emma blinked. "I didn't know about this." Mrs. Henderson smiled slightly. It was meant to be a surprise. Emma's heart started beating faster. "I think you should stay close to the stage," the principal added. Emma hesitated. "I don't think that's necessary." Mrs. Henderson gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Please." There was something in her voice. Something firm. Something important. Emma slowly nodded. "Okay." They walked back toward Noah. Emma held his hand again. "Come, we will sit near the front." Noah looked happy. "Really?" "Yes." As they walked, people moved slightly to give them space. Some smiled. Some looked away. Daniel noticed them moving closer to the front. His eyes narrowed slightly. "What is she doing?" he muttered. Sophia followed his gaze. "Maybe she wants attention," she said with a small laugh. Daniel smirked. "Let her." But deep inside, something was bothering him. Something he didn't understand yet. The lights in the hall dimmed slightly. The microphone on the stage turned on. A soft feedback sound echoed. Mrs. Henderson walked onto the stage. The room slowly became quiet again. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began. Her voice was calm, strong, clear. "Before we end tonight's event, I would like to take a moment to recognize someone very special." People turned their attention to the stage. Daniel leaned back in his chair, not very interested. "These events are not just about performances," Mrs. Henderson continued. "They are about support, love, and the people behind the children who helped them grow. Emma felt her heart beating faster. Her hands became slightly cold. Noah looked up at her. "Mama, what is happening?" Emma smiled softly. "I don't know." But she had a feeling. A strange feeling. Mrs. Henderson looked around the room. Her eyes slowly moved until they stopped on Emma. And in that moment, Emma knew. This person, the principal continued, has never asked for recognition. She has never tried to stand in the spotlight. She works quietly, patiently every single day. The room became completely silent. Daniel shifted slightly in his chair. He looked around, still not understanding. "She has attended every meeting," Mrs. Henderson said. "She has helped not just her own child, but other children as well." Emma's eyes filled with emotion. She shook her head slightly, almost like she didn't want this. She has shown what true care and true dedication looks like. Sophia crossed her arms again. "Who is she talking about?" she whispered. Daniel didn't answer. He was staring at the stage now, listening carefully. "For her endless support," Mrs. Henderson said, "for her strength, her patience, and her love." She paused, just for a second, a deep, powerful pause. And then she said, "I would like to invite Mrs. Emma Carter to the stage." The room froze, completely. All eyes turned toward Emma. Noah's face lit up. "Mama, that's you." Emma couldn't move. Her body felt still. Her heart loud. Very loud. Daniel's face changed. The smile disappeared. Completely. "What?" he whispered. Sophia looked at him in shock. "You said she was the nanny." Daniel didn't answer. Because in that moment, he realized something very important. Something very dangerous. He had just humiliated the wrong person. And now, everyone was about to see the truth. Emma slowly stood up, her hands slightly shaking, but her face calm, strong. She took one step forward, then another. And as she walked toward the stage, the silence followed her, heavy, powerful, unavoidable, because this moment was no longer small. This moment was about to change everything. The school auditorium was full, but the noise had changed. Before, it was loud with laughter, music, and parents talking proudly about their children. Now it felt tight, like the air itself was holding its breath. Emily stood still near the side of the stage. Her hands were calm, but her heart was steady in a different way now. She was no longer confused. She was no longer hurt in silence. She was watching. On the stage, Sophie stood with her classmates. Her small hands held a paper star she had made herself. Her eyes were searching the crowd again. Not for Daniel. Not anymore. She was looking for her mother. Emily gave her a small smile and lifted her hand just a little. Sophie saw it. And in that moment, something changed in her face. Her shoulders straightened. She stood a little taller. Mrs. Carter stepped forward with a microphone. "Now, we will begin the presentation," she said. "Each child will speak about someone important in their life." One by one, children walked forward. Some talked about their fathers, some about their mothers, some about grandparents. The audience clapped after every child. Daniel sat in the front row, his face still carrying that proud, confident look. But now, there was something else behind it. A small crack, a small doubt. He kept looking back at Emily, like he was trying to understand something he could not see. Beside him, Rachel crossed her legs and whispered, "Relax. It's just a school event." Daniel nodded, but he didn't answer. Then Mrs. Carter looked at her list again. Next, Sophie Hayes. Sophie stepped forward. The room became quiet again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. Not awkward, not uncomfortable. It was focused. Sophie held the microphone with both hands. It was a little too big for her, but she didn't move away. She looked at the paper in her hand. Then she looked up. "My name is Sophie," she said softly. Emily felt her chest tighten. She had heard that voice every day at home. But today, it sounded stronger. "I want to talk about someone very important to me," Sophie continued. Daniel smiled again, ready. Rachel leaned slightly forward. Sophie paused for a second. Then she said, "My mom." The word landed in the room like a quiet truth that nobody could ignore. Emily didn't move. Daniel's smile froze. Sophie continued, her voice still soft, but clear. My mom wakes up early every day. She makes my breakfast. She helps me get ready for school. She checks my homework. She reads with me at night. Some parents in the audience nodded slowly. Sophie looked at her paper again, but this time she didn't really read it. She spoke from memory. She is very smart, Sophie said. When I don't understand something, she explains it in a simple way. She never gets angry. She just smiles and tries again. Emily felt something warm rise in her chest. Not pain, not sadness, something stronger. Sophie took a small breath. And when I'm scared, she said, she stays with me. She doesn't leave. She holds my hand until I feel okay again. A woman in the second row quietly wiped her eyes. Daniel shifted in his seat. Rachel looked at him, then back at Sophie. Sophie's voice became even softer. Some people think my mom is just someone who takes care of me. She paused. Emily's fingers tightened slightly. But they are wrong. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Sophie lifted her head fully now. Her eyes moved across the room until they found Emily again. My mom is the strongest person I know, she said. She is not just someone who helps. She is the reason I can do anything. The audience was completely silent now. Daniel swallowed. Sophie smiled, a small, honest smile. I love my mom. She stepped back from the microphone. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the room filled with applause. Not loud at first, but real. Emily didn't clap. She couldn't. Her hands were still, but her eyes were shining. Mrs. Carter walked back to the microphone. Thank you, Sophie, she said gently. Daniel looked around. He saw people nodding. He saw people looking at Emily differently now. Not as a nanny, not as background, but as something else. Something real. Rachel leaned closer to him and whispered, she's just a kid. Don't take it seriously. But Daniel didn't answer. Because for the first time that day, he felt something he had not expected. Uncertainty. On the stage, the presentation continued, but the energy had shifted again. People were not just watching anymore. They were thinking. Emily stayed where she was. She didn't move forward. She didn't try to join the front row. She didn't need to, because the distance that Daniel had created was already breaking. After a few more children spoke, Mrs. Carter returned to the microphone. Thank you to all our students, she said. Before we end, our principal would like to say a few words. A man stood up from the side of the stage. He was calm, well-dressed, and carried himself with quiet authority. This was Principal Andrew Collins. He walked slowly to the center. The applause faded, and the room became silent again. But this time, it wasn't just silence. It was anticipation, because nobody knew what he was about to say. Emily lifted her eyes slightly. Daniel sat up straighter. Rachel crossed her arms. And somewhere deep inside the room, something was about to change. Principal Andrew Collins stood at the center of the stage. He didn't rush. He didn't smile too much. He simply looked at the audience, one side then the other. His eyes were calm, but very sharp. The kind of eyes that notice things even when people think nobody is watching. He adjusted the microphone slightly. Good evening, everyone, he said. His voice was deep, steady, and clear. The room answered with a soft, respectful response. Good evening. He nodded once. Tonight has been a beautiful event, he continued. We saw talent, courage, and honesty from our students. He paused. And sometimes children show us something we adults forget. That line made a few people shift in their seats. Daniel looked down for a second, then back up again. The principal slowly walked a few steps across the stage. His hands were behind his back. I want to talk about something very simple, he said. Respect. The word was small, but it landed heavy. Not respect for titles, he continued. Not respect for money or position or appearance. His eyes moved across the front row. They stopped for just a second on Daniel, then moved again. I mean respect for people. Silence. Complete silence. No matter who they are or what role they play in your life. Emily felt her breath slow down. She didn't look at Daniel. She didn't need to. She knew this was not random. The principal turned slightly. now facing the middle section of the audience. I have worked in schools for over 25 years, he said. I have seen many kinds of parents. He paused again. Some are very loud. A few soft laughs came from the audience. Some are very quiet. Now the laughter stopped. Some like to be seen, and some choose to stand in the background. His eyes moved again. This time they rested on Emily, but his expression did not change. No smile, no signal, just calm. But let me tell you something very important, he said slowly. The ones who stand in the background are often the ones doing the most. The air shifted. People looked around. Some turned their heads. Some looked down. Daniel's jaw tightened. Rachel crossed her arms again, but now her face was not as relaxed as before. The principal continued. I know every child in this school, he said. I know their progress, their struggles, their strengths. He took a small step forward. And I also know the people behind them. Now, the room was not just listening. It was waiting. I know who comes to every meeting, he said. I know who helps with homework. I know who answers late-night emails. I know who stands quietly at the back, making sure their child feels safe. Emily's fingers slowly relaxed at her sides. She didn't move, but something inside her stood taller. Daniel shifted in his seat again, this time uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. The principal looked directly at him now. Not long, but long enough. And I also know, he said calmly, when someone is not being given the respect they deserve. The words hit hard, like a quiet truth spoken out loud. A woman in the second row slowly shook her head. A man near the back looked down at his phone, pretending not to listen. Rachel leaned closer to Daniel and whispered, He's not talking about you. But her voice was not confident anymore. Daniel didn't respond, because deep inside he knew. The principal turned slightly and walked back to the center. Today, he said, I heard something that did not sit right with me. Now the room felt heavy. Every person alert. Every ear focused. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Someone was called just a nanny. The words echoed. Clear. Sharp. Unavoidable. A wave moved through the audience. People looked at each other. Some already knew. Some were hearing it for the first time. Daniel's face went still. Completely still. Rachel slowly leaned back in her chair. Her confident smile gone. Emily didn't move. Not even a little. She just listened. The principal continued. I want to say something very clearly, he said. There is no such thing as just anything. He paused. Not in this school. Not in this community. His voice became a little stronger now. Every role matters. Every person matters. And the way we speak about others says more about us than it does about them. Silence. Deep silence. Daniel looked around. People were not looking at the stage anymore. They were looking at him. Some directly, some quietly, but they were looking. And for the first time that evening, Daniel felt exposed. Not powerful, not admired, just seen. Rachel shifted again, now clearly uncomfortable. Let's go, she whispered. But Daniel didn't move. He couldn't. The principal continued. And since we are here to celebrate our children, he said, I think it is important we also recognize the people who truly support them. He turned his body slightly. His eyes moved again, and this time they stayed on Emily. For example, he said calmly, Sophie Hayes. Sophie looked up from her seat, a little surprised. The principal smiled gently at her. You spoke beautifully today, he said. Sophie smiled shyly. Thank you, she whispered. And the person you spoke about, he continued, deserves to be seen. Now, the entire room turned toward Emily. All at once. No whispers. No hiding. Just attention. Pure attention. Emily felt it. Every eye. Every thought. But she didn't step back. She didn't look down. She simply stood calm. Strong. The principal nodded slightly. Emily Hayes, he said, would you please come to the stage? A small gasp moved through the audience. Daniel's hand tightened on his chair. Rachel's eyes widened. What is this? She whispered. But no one answered her. Because this moment was no longer small. This moment was now something everyone would remember. Emily didn't move immediately. For a second time, felt slow. Very slow. She looked at Sophie. Sophie smiled proud. Then Emily took a step forward. One step. Then another. The sound of her shoes on the floor, soft but clear. People moved slightly to make space for her. No one spoke. No one laughed. No one whispered. Because now, everyone understood something. Something simple. Something important. The woman who was called just a nanny was about to be recognized in front of everyone. And the man who said those words had no place left to hide. Emily reached the steps of the stage. She paused for a second. Then she walked up. Slowly. Gracefully. Without fear. Principal Collins stepped aside, giving her space. Respecting her presence. He picked up a small envelope from a table. Then he looked at the audience again. "I believe," he said calmly, "that tonight we should correct a mistake." The room went completely still again, and Daniel felt something break inside his chest. Because he knew this was the moment everything would turn. The hall felt different now. The air was heavy, like something important was about to happen and nobody could stop it. People were no longer talking loudly. Even the children had become quiet, as if they could feel the tension in the room. Daniel stood near the front, his smile slowly fading. His hands were still in his pockets, but his fingers were tight, pressing hard against the fabric. He looked at Emma, then at Olivia, then back at the principal. For the first time that day, he looked unsure. Olivia stood straight, her face calm. She was not angry. She was not shaking. She looked like someone who had already walked through pain and come out stronger. The principal stepped forward. He adjusted his glasses and looked at the crowd, making sure everyone was listening. "Before we continue," he said slowly, "there is something important everyone should know." The room became completely silent. Daniel forced a small laugh. "Sir, I think this is unnecessary. It's just a small misunderstanding. She helps at home, that's all." The principal did not look at him. His eyes stayed on Olivia. Then he spoke again. "Mrs. Olivia Carter is not a nanny." A soft murmur moved through the crowd. Daniel's smile disappeared. The principal continued, his voice calm but strong. "She is one of the main sponsors of this school." The silence broke into shock. People looked at each other. Some whispered. Some stared at Olivia like they were seeing her for the first time. Daniel blinked. "What?" The principal went on, clear and steady. 3 years ago, when this school was close to shutting down, Mrs. Carter stepped in. She funded the library renovation. She paid for new classrooms. She also created the scholarship program that supports more than 30 children here today. Gasps filled the room. Emma looked up at her mother with wide eyes. Olivia did not move. The principal turned slightly toward Daniel now. She never asked for recognition. She asked for one thing only, that her daughter would grow in a place filled with respect and kindness. Daniel's face turned pale. That can't be right." The principal nodded. "It is right. Every document is in her name. Every donation. Every improvement. This school stands today because of her." People began clapping. Slowly at first, then louder. Not for the event. For Olivia. Daniel stood frozen. His mind was racing. All those times he ignored her. All those times he spoke down to her. All those moments he believed she had no power. And now everything was crashing in front of him. Emma suddenly pulled her hand away from Daniel and ran toward Olivia. "Mom." She hugged her tightly. "I knew you were special," Emma whispered. Olivia bent down and hugged her back, holding her close. "I always told you," Olivia said softly. "Kindness is stronger than anything." Daniel took a step forward. His voice was low now. "Olivia, I didn't know." She looked at him, not with anger, not with sadness, just with truth. "You didn't ask," she said. That one sentence hit harder than anything else. Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came out. Shayla stood at the side, completely silent now. The confidence she had earlier was gone. She slowly stepped back, realizing she did not belong there anymore. The principal stepped aside, giving the stage to Olivia. But Olivia did not walk forward to take the spotlight. Instead, she took Emma's hand. "I think the children deserve this moment," she said. Her voice was gentle. And with that, she stepped away from the center. The applause grew louder. Not because she spoke, but because she didn't need to. The event continued, but everything had changed. People now came to Olivia, thanking her, praising her, respecting her. Daniel stood alone for a long time. No one came to him. No one praised him. The same people who once laughed at his jokes now walked past him quietly. That night, when they returned home, the house felt different too. Quiet, heavy. Emma went to her room after hugging her mother again. Daniel stood in the living room. "Olivia," he said slowly, "I made a mistake." She did not answer immediately. She walked to the table, placed her bag down, and sat. Then she looked at him. "A mistake is forgetting something small," she said calmly. "What you did was a choice." Daniel swallowed hard. "I can fix it." Olivia shook her head gently. "No, some things are not meant to be fixed. They are meant to be learned from." He stepped closer. "Please give me another chance." She looked at him for a long moment. "You didn't lose me today," she said quietly. "You lost me a long time ago when you stopped seeing me." Tears filled Daniel's eyes, but Olivia did not cry. She had already cried before. Now she was strong. Days passed, then weeks. Daniel tried to change. He tried to speak better, act better. But Olivia had already made her decision. She filed for separation quietly. No drama, no shouting, just peace. Emma stayed close to her mother, growing stronger every day. At school, Olivia was now known and respected by everyone. But she still lived simply, still smiled softly, still chose kindness. Months later, on another school event day, Olivia stood again in the same hall. This time, people greeted her warmly. Emma stood proudly beside her. Daniel was there too, but he stood at the back, watching, learning, understanding too late. Olivia looked at the stage, then at Emma, and smiled. "Ready?" she asked. Emma nodded. "Always, Mom." And as the lights shined and the event began, Olivia stood tall. Not because someone gave her respect, but because she never needed to ask for it. She had always deserved it. And this time, everyone finally saw it. That night was not just about a school event. It was the night truth finally stood up and spoke. Olivia did not shout. She did not fight. She did not try to prove herself again and again. She simply stayed calm, waited, and let the truth come out at the right moment. Daniel thought respect comes from money, from control, from showing power in front of others. But he learned the hard way that real respect comes from how you treat the people who stand beside you every day. And when you lose that respect, sometimes you lose everything with it. Olivia did not win by hurting him back. She won by choosing her dignity, her peace, and her self-respect. She walked away with her head high, showing everyone that a strong woman does not need to scream to be heard. Her actions speak louder than anything. And maybe the biggest lesson of all, never call someone just anything. Because you never know their real story, their real strength, or their real worth until it's too late. If this story touched your heart, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this.